Hello and welcome to Encountered. My name is Shadi and here with Burris.
Hello there.
And today we're going to be talking about Prey, Bethesda's new game. And a disclaimer, the video you're seeing will be the first hour of the game. And obviously there will be spoilers throughout the video. So if you have not played it, you intend to, and you want to avoid spoilers, this probably isn't the video to watch.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Alright, so you're not as far as me. We've discussed
No,
that
not
a little
quite
bit.
as far, but I'm pretty close. I wouldn't say I'm like crazy
You're,
far behind you.
you're not as close as you think. But you aren't. I wouldn't say you're terribly far off. There are some significant things going on, but
I was closer to guessing the ending.
this is
than
true.
you.
This is true. But before we get into things, I want to know just a very high level your general impression of the game so far.
You know what? I would say a 7 out of 10. Just a solid 7 out of 10.
Okay. Um,
But then I mean, it's a fun game. Has callbacks. I feel like to System Shock, Bioshock, etc. There's different ways to do things similar to Deus Ex. It's kind of like a kind of bundle of all of those games combined.
yeah, definitely. I think I'm inclined to give it an 8, just because I think I will go back and play this game again, and I am enjoying it immensely. I'm having a good time.
I wouldn't say I'm enjoying it immensely, but I'm not. I don't know. I'm not as into the whole spooky atmosphere. Um, I did have some obvious problems with the games, but if you want to talk about the positives first,
I mean, it's okay if we go freeform.
what do you want to
But
talk
do you
about?
find this game spooky?
I do kind of find it spooky. Specifically, one of the things is I don't know how you're playing on PS4, like whether you're using some headset or anything like that. I've been using a headset in the dark, and it is a pretty spooky-esque game. So you'll have, maybe you'll turn around because you heard a noise, and then the music of like you fucking saw him,
Yeah.
but it's like I definitely didn't see
Yeah.
the mimics. So
So
that happens a lot.
the mimics are very obviously meant to be a scare sort of thing. And I would even give the phantoms a creepy factor because they speak and there's a sort of
Yeah.
subversion of expectation because when they look at things they'll be like, did we make this in the lab? Which I thought was a very interesting piece of dialogue, but it's because they're corrupted people, obviously. It's still interesting
Yeah.
to me. But yeah, I don't know. I haven't really found it scary, but then I've never really been one to react much to horror games, I
I mean,
guess.
I wasn't scared
Right,
by it,
right.
except for I think the very first, like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
Like, when you wake up and then the first time you like see the mimic or whatever.
Yeah. So,
But I think it does kind of fill a spooky, uh, like notch. Like it's definitely not spooky. It's not like Mass Effect Andromeda where it's definitely not spooky.
that's true.
This is somewhere between spooky and neutral.
Mm,
It's definitely not in the not spooky
that's
area.
fair. So, do we want to
I
structure
would also
this?
say
Go ahead.
I would also like to say that the characters, their models, when you first step onto the space station and you see some of the remains of some of the characters, you're
Mm,
kind of like, oh, they're pretty spooky.
yeah, the like decrepit faces and all that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Do we want to structure this video positive, negatives like we have been doing, or do we want
Yeah,
to
I think
freeform
so. I
it?
think
Okay.
positives and then negatives. That's
Okay.
the way to go.
So, why don't you start with your positives?
I think my positives are the controls are really well. The PC port is pretty well done.
Mm,
I was able to get in 1440p with 144 hertz. I was like getting 80 FPS on a 290, which is a 4-year-old card, which
mm,
is pretty good. Um, I would say that again, the combat is fun. The building of different parts is enjoyable, but not
mm,
necessarily the greatest thing I've ever done as far as building pieces of different things, etc., or breaking down uh, supplies.
mm-hmm.
And I think it's kind of limited by the inventory system. I don't personally don't like the limited weight or I I prefer what Prey does, which is instead of a weight, it has a like a kind of like
Grid, like the typical
grid.
ARPG
Yeah,
inventory system,
yeah,
Diablo, all
a
that.
grid array. But I will say this much: um, most, and I'm not as far as you, but most items are either like 2x4 or 1x2 or something along those lines. There's not a lot of weird shaped objects that kind of make it difficult
Right.
to really warrant a grid system to have ever been made.
Mm.
So I think if you have an inventory system that is a grid system, you want the items within to be kind of weird and like, oh, look at this is an X shape, how the fuck is this gonna fit?
I don't know
You
about
know?
that because really, even ARPGs don't do that.
Almost every grid game I've played that had a grid, like Deus Ex does it more than the last Deus Ex that came out, Human Revolution. Or wait, that's not the newest one.
Mankind Divided.
Anyway, yeah, Mankind Divided even had a grid system that was more kind of like, oh, I have to make a choice,
Right.
as opposed to when I start running low on materials in this game, I just attack a mimic,
Hmm.
and then when I lose health, I just eat a bunch of apples. Or
Yeah.
I will say that the health system is fairly well balanced. I played on normal. I found the game to be difficult enough for someone playing it on normal. It wasn't like crazy hard, but it definitely wasn't easy. It's got like an enjoyable difficulty level.
Hmm.
I will say -1 point for having an unrealistic space physics system, where when you speed up, you don't just keep careening away. Like it automatically slows you down.
You have
Um,
thrusters to dampen your speed.
yeah, of course, but you know, like when you start just going like at 9.99 millimeter per second, or whatever it caps you out at, maybe it's 6.66.
No, it's not.
But
But,
when you get maxed out, you immediately, if you just let go, you slow back down.
yeah, I think the idea is that you're engaging backwards though.
The only thing is, if you hit like a chair, it doesn't stop. Like it eventually will stop spinning.
Right.
So
I mean, that's true.
physics-
Yeah.
Yeah, the physics are just. I mean, that's an excuse. The physics aren't perfect, but hey, who needs scientific relevancy? It's basically a minute point. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
I love the turrets, and one of the biggest issues I have with this game so far, and it's also one of the most positive reasons. It's one of the same things. If you remember Portal,
Hmm.
I love the turrets. I
Yeah.
wish I could take them with me. Like
can.
they seem like chums, pals.
You can take
You
them with
take
you.
them with you, the same level. But
Right.
when you go
Yes, that's
to
true.
another level, you
There's
have to
always
leave.
more though.
Yeah, but it's extremely sad, and I wish you could kind of equip them in your inventory and take them with you. Maybe you can name them.
Do you
I feel
wanna-
like I would have fucking so much fun with that.
So one
that
of the
should
things
be a
that's
mod.
really interesting about turrets in this game, if you take any abilities in the second tree, they target you unless you hack them,
That's pretty impressive.
because they
Huh.
can now detect the Typhon within you.
Huh. Well, I never took any abilities in the second tree. So.
Right. And I've seen people complaining about this online. They're like, they compare it to Bioshock, where it's like, oh, they show you these vigor, or they weren't called vigors in the first one, plasmids, and you can use them in unique and interesting ways, and like Prey like dares you to use them and then punishes you for it. It's like, yeah, there's a fucking in-universe reason for that. What do you
Yeah,
think they punish you?
which I discovered myself very early on. That was my basically there's a line when you first unlock the video, and I think it's actually before the second part of the video.
Yeah, it is.
Which that's not really a spoiler, just unlocking the first or second. I think by the time the first one actually ended, I kind of already had a hint. Like, I think this is how this is going to end. And then when I unlocked the second part of the video, I pretty much was like, this has to be how this ends.
Even without knowing that, you can figure out that the turrets would target you, because I already knew that they were going to. Because the Typhon abilities are just pitched as neuromod injections again. But I was like, no, I'm not fucking touching those. These turrets have saved my ass so many times.
Yeah, I love the turrets. Turrets for me, if compared to like Portal, a turret is like a pal. It's a chum. Why would I like? What was it called in Portal? I can't remember the name of the block. Companion cube.
They compete.
I love the companion cube, and it's the same thing with Prey. Because at this point, really, how many people have I talked to? Basically, just Alex. He's
Yeah.
the only person who you really have talked to in the game. So,
There are side missions to go find people. I haven't done any
I'm
yet,
sure.
though.
I'm sure. I know you can save people, etc.
Yeah.
Because when you go and look at like who's alive,
Yeah.
there's like 15, 16, 17, 20 people alive, which is cool, and I like that. And I'm sure this is one reason why I'm going to go play the game again. It's just because I want to see like what are those interactions like.
Yeah.
At the same time, I feel like the weapons are really, really interesting. So the glue is like one of the best guns in a long time that I've had. Like it's very interesting. It's I like the way that you can kind of even use it to like walk around in part of the
Yeah.
levels where you normally wouldn't have been able to. At the same time, the crossbolt one is kind of boring. I felt like.
Oh, it
Crossbow.
doesn't do any damage. It's meant to distract enemies,
Yeah. I
and you can
still
press
found it-
buttons.
I still found it a little boring.
So you probably haven't met this enemy type yet. In fact, I'm fairly positive you haven't. There will be an enemy type where you'll be glad that you have it.
Okay. So anyway, one thing I'd like to touch on is mimics, especially early in the game. While they're going through a spoopy atmosphere, I, was fairly certain that maybe they wouldn't have you fight them so early on. Maybe make the game more suspenseful,
Mhm.
and instead you just fight these little tiny mimics that you just beat the shit out of. Yeah, and, I understand it as far as gameplay mechanic, but at the same time, I was kind of like, oh, this is it. Like, okay. And
Mhm.
obviously, as the enemy types go on, I know there's more, but it just seemed like maybe they should have either revealed something or kind of like kept them away for a longer amount of time.
How many enemy types have you encountered?
I think it's 3.
Are you so Mimic and Phantom, obviously?
Yeah,
What's the third one?
the electric thing.
Oh, okay, so I don't really count that as another type. There are also
Whatever.
electric mimics.
But anyway, I definitely found parts of the game to kind of be okay. So the worst. Here are my negatives. Unless you want to do your positives first.
I think it's probably better to do positives.
Okay, go ahead.
So, how much do you care about me telling you things you don't know?
Considering I successfully guessed the ending of the game, you can go ahead and tell me whatever you want.
Okay, I mean that doesn't bother me. I'm just trying to get a feel for if it bothers you. So,
Sometimes, not this case.
okay.
I'm probably gonna come back and play it, so keep that in mind. But don't hide something. I don't really
Okay. So,
care about it.
yeah, you will encounter more enemy types. I really, really love the enemies in this game. I think they're really interesting. So mimics are already like kind of unique enough within this sort of game,
Mhm.
and then
I loved. That's the one thing I will say. Is the first time I met a mimic, and I noticed like, wait, there's 2 trash cans.
yeah,
I was like, this motherfucker. And I
yeah.
hit the trash, and it came out. I was like, oh yeah, that's pretty badass.
Phantoms are pretty typical. What you expect, you see it with the splicers in BioShock and the necromorphs in Dead Space. It's like it's what you expect. And then you sort of get into more interesting types, and I won't even really talk about what they are, but
Isn't there an invisible one?
there is an invisible one. Fuck that guy.
I really don't like the like. It's just boring. I get it, but like having an invisible enemy is kind of.
So it's not. You don't encounter it until you have a way to see it.
Yeah, I encountered it and I beat it, but
Okay.
it was just like no.
Um,
Like, fucking shot.
did you see
many
its
times.
model?
No.
It's like a.
It exploded and turned into basically.
It's like a black skeleton with no legs that like pulls itself by its arms, as far as I could see.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was pretty good looking. So you've encountered that then?
Not the actual seeing it, just shooting it, and then it exploding into
Okay.
little
So
bits,
that's called a
of course,
poltergeist.
like they all do.
Um,
Okay.
there's another type called a weaver, where you can watch a video of what makes a weaver. And that was kind of interesting.
Mm.
But yeah, I've encountered, I think, so let's see, it was Mimic, Phantom, Poltergeist, Weaver, Sisted, Technopath, and Nightmare. So I've encountered 7 types.
Okay.
They're very, very cool. I love the enemy design in this game. Um, it's made it very enjoyable for me so far. I also really like sort of learning the pieces of information from reading the emails and the notes that are left.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's very like Deus Ex and
Mhm.
Bioshock, etc.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does definitely help expand the lore of the universe. That not necessarily they had enough budget to just show.
Hmm. And I will say I can't stand. I can't read the in-universe books ever.
No, they're horrible.
Yeah.
They're absolutely horrible, and they only show like, here, read this tiny little paragraph. Okay,
Yeah.
go back to work.
But I don't know. I agree with you about the glue cannon. It's really interesting. It's a great weapon. It actually helps you do more damage to enemies, which is lovely. It is something I've definitely needed
Yeah.
playing on hard. I like crafting stuff, and they did a pretty good job pacing when you get fabrication plans. Like when you get a weapon,
Yeah.
you discover the ammo thing not too soon after, and I'm glad they weren't just like, here, have both at once every single time. They were like, here,
Yeah.
I'm gonna tease you with this weapon, you'll get the ammo in a little bit.
Maybe.
And then, you can fabricate grenades, you can fabricate neuromods later on. Which is cool. And I also like that the station is open to you to a degree already. Like, you can run around and do stuff. You don't have to strictly follow the main quest and then branch out as you go along. You can be like, hey, I want to find a way into here, and I'm going to do that. Which is nice as well.
True.
What else? I mean, I like the
I
atmosphere.
didn't necessarily find it that open, and if anything, I found it too. All right, so it's open, yes, but you know you can only go so far into every section. I will say.
Right, but then you get codes to go to other sections.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. It's open, but it's like it's almost like a circle that extends outwardly slowly over time, like revealing more and more of the circle. So maybe at first, you know, it's only like a donut hole size,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's a donut, and then all of a sudden it's, you know, giant when you finally like kind of use the elevator, etc.
Mm-hmm. I also really like the sort of innate notion of choice that is within the game. So
Yeah, it's very similar. You've played Dishonored, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
But this
It's
game
obviously
has
very similar.
more choices, which is nice. You know, there's the choice of who you want to believe. January, who says you can escape. December, who says fuck it all. And Alex is like, whoa, don't be a dick. This is all fine. And then there's also the choice of, do I want to use neuromods? Do I want to use just human neuromods? Do I want to use Typhon neuromods? Do I want to use a mix? Do I, like, you know, you have all these choices
Yeah.
on how you want your character to be, which I thought was cool. And they do affect the ending as far as I understand, so that's also nice.
Yeah.
I don't know that I have too much else to say. I mean, I like the game, so I could probably say more positive things, but I don't have anything else prepared that isn't, I feel, obvious, I would say.
Yeah. Do you know anything about the original Prey, and do you think it's kind of strange how kind of this game is I don't know, I would say I have, it's been a very long time. I think I played the opening part of the original Prey, but this has nothing in common with that Prey, if I'm not
So I
mistaken.
never played it, but I have heard that this is a pretty sharp deviation from that.
Yeah, it's like entirely different
Yeah.
as far as like the original had more to do with just like regular space aliens almost.
Mm.
You know, and a Native American main character, while this one still at least did like, I guess not like just some white character, but at least like, you know, something still different.
Yeah.
And I think
Different sound
actually
like better.
from as time goes on, I think making Asian main characters is going to be probably the best, the safest choice in, like gaming, come maybe even 5 years from now, because obviously the market for Asian main characters is going to be much higher considering the population.
Sure.
But anyway, enough about that. It's kind of random, but it's kind of to do with Prey. But anyway, yeah. You ready for the negatives?
Sure. Let's go.
Okay. I felt the loading times were terrible. That's
I
one
would agree.
massive hit, and this is what I've heard is that the PC game actually has twice the speed of the loading time of Prey, which is crazy because sometimes I was waiting, like 30 seconds, 40 seconds. So that means on PS4 and Xbox One, people were waiting even longer.
I would say 30 to 40 seconds is probably my longest wait time as well.
It's still very crazy, and that's not me actually counting it. That's just me
Right.
guessing.
No, I
So
agree.
it's possible it could be less, but still very, very long loading times. I mean, we're going back to like Duke Nukem Forever on console here.
Mm-hmm.
I would say the graphics, while good, are a little bland at times, and not to say always, but I think a lot of the early, hey, this game doesn't look good. I think that's mainly just due to the fact that you're in a simulation at the beginning.
Yeah.
So people, automatically took it as like, oh, the graphics are bad. But as you continue to play on, I feel like the graphics do get better, but they're never as good as I think they could have been. I think some of the textures were really low quality.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's not bad. Other than that, there's nothing that's glaringly bad about the game. There was something I was about to say about the baddies. I would say when you die really, you can die extremely quickly in this game.
Mm-hmm.
But when you die, I mean, it's not a big deal, and I think they were trying to go for a spooky vibe. But the fact remains, the game just kicks you right back to where you were. Basically, you're like with no repercussions. You're like, okay, I'm gonna attack this from a different point of view.
Yeah.
And while for some games I prefer that, in Prey, I kind of wish that there was at least some kind of thing that happened when you died, instead of just like fuck it, go back 5 seconds, which
Talking
I
like
felt
a
like happened a lot.
Sort of Jack and Dexter end screen where the Phantom like looms over your body and it's like, we got one, or it's like eats you or some shit.
Or at least goes back like something. I mean, it's just like clack end, like
Yeah.
very, very quickly, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
that's
oh,
true.
okay. I will say the music, and this is another positive, but I missed it. The music is wonderful.
Yeah, I like it a lot. It's really, really good. There have been a few times when it triggered when it shouldn't have.
Yeah.
And I mean, there was
same experience.
genuinely
There was-
no enemy in the vicinity.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, but I think that's more again because they're trying to go for a spooky atmosphere.
Yeah, I mean,
And
I could definitely see
the
them just doing
game-
it to fuck with you.
I feel like the game is like a failed attempt at a horror game, but the game still shines through enough to not necessarily be like, oh, well, it sucks. But like you said, one huge negative, while some of the added lore to the game is wonderful, some of the emails are good. A lot of every time you find a voice log, it's good.
Mhm.
Man, those books are terrible.
That's
those-
kind of
those
always
books
how
are really
books are,
bad.
though. Like,
No. Warcraft did wonderful books.
okay,
There
sorry,
were
I shouldn't
other
say
games.
always, but
There were some games that did books really well, but I will say this did it particularly badly. Specifically because as you go back, progressing through the same level that maybe you did like 10 minutes ago, but now you have a key code to go even further. So you're walking around and, oh, look at all these pickups. And you go and they're books. They're fucking
yeah.
books.
So I
So
don't
you-
think it did it any worse than like the Elder Scrolls games.
I hate those games.
Right. Well, the books are bad.
So anyway, I would say that The skills, while interesting, the human skills are definitely nowhere near as fun as the Typhon skills.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
And at the same time, I would say that the negatives of using the Typhon skills are extremely negative. So, it's pretty well balanced. So you can't necessarily fault it for having good balance. However, it does kind of force two playthroughs, which I'm not fond of.
I don't think it forces two
I
playthroughs.
think if you, I think it kind of does. Like it doesn't force it, but it strongly creates like a need for it if you're really a fan of the game, one way or the other.
I mean, I fully intend to play 2, maybe even 3.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. To me, I don't think the game is short enough for that. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong there. The game's only like 14 hours.
I've heard it's 13.
Really?
Yep,
So
that's what I've heard.
It's not too bad. It's not too bad.
And I
then
imagine
maybe-
playing through the second time on like easy, you're probably just burning through it.
Yeah. So you might be wrong there. I'm playing on normal, one notch lower than you, and the difficulty. I mean, it doesn't seem like super uber difficult, but it's definitely not like a walk in the park.
Yeah, but imagine on easy.
Hopefully. I will say some of the characters are just kind of boring. Like, I didn't really find Alex Yu that interesting at all.
No, he's kind of just an asshole.
No, he's not even an asshole. He's just like, hey, what's up?
I mean, reading some of the logs, he definitely seems like an asshole.
Maybe towards the main character, Morgan Yu, because
Yeah.
obviously he does what he did, but
I mean, that's who
Morgan
I care
Yu
about.
did
That's who I
originally
am.
did sign up
Yeah,
to be that person, so I don't know.
that's fair. Is that all your negatives?
And I just want to point out again, those loading times are seriously detrimental because. Oh, and one more thing for the PC. Most people don't give a shit about this, especially people who don't multitask a lot. I am someone who multitasks far exceedingly. I exceed multitasking like 99th percentile. So when I see a loading screen at all, I like to alt tab. And Prey, it doesn't have a terrible alt tab like TF2, but it does exist. It is there.
There you go.
And then as far as the PC settings go, they're phenomenal. They're not bad or anything. Overall, though, like there was nothing that screamed at me like this game is amazing, but there was nothing bad about the game at all. I mean, that really was like this is terrible, or something that made me feel like I shouldn't play this game.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking towards PC things, I've heard there was a save corruption issue. It's since been fixed, but it did exist. And it happened twice to one reviewer, and he actually like just gave it a 4 out of 10 because he was like, "Fuck this."
That actually happened a lot to New Vegas, if I remember correctly. Fallout New Vegas.
Probably.
Which is funny because that is actually, a very good game that just happened to have one little issue.
Yeah.
One little issue, a lot of issues, but they were fixed.
I mean, like all the Fallout games released with issues.
Tons of issues.
My negatives aren't that widely spread. I will say I am not a huge fan of the gunplay in this game because it feels very slow and the enemies are very fast.
I think that's mainly, and again, to go PC console, that is almost entirely a console thing.
That's probably true.
Due to the analog format of, just a controller. Obviously, I can just change the settings on my mouse and get extremely, I can like flip around in a second, maybe less, probably half a second, just do circles for days like in CSGO.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, even still, like, I use the shotgun a lot now.
Yeah, me too. That's my main weapon.
And I don't know, something about using that shotgun against those mimics who are just fucking bouncing around.
Yeah. Because you will get a little bit. You might not kill them right away, but
Yeah.
If they're bouncing around, one good shot will kill it instantly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will say that the shotgun has significantly better gunplay than something like the pistol,
Yeah.
which is just terrible to me.
Yeah. I'm playing on hard, so it's hard to, justify this, but I think some of the enemies are a little too strong, particularly the special variant phantoms when they chain kinetic blasts. It does a lot of damage, and they can shoot off 2, maybe 3 before you can solidify them in that glue.
I would say that one thing that has to be said is that when you're attacking an enemy, it's very hard to actually like move to dodge anything at all.
Yeah.
So you basically have to break off attack, and then on PC, obviously, you have to press shift
Hmm.
and just get out of there as quickly as possible. Just run.
And that's kind of what I mean by slow versus fast enemies. Like, you're slow, they're fast.
Yeah, but as far as like aiming on PC, there's none of that. Like it's definitely I can aim anywhere, but
Yeah, no, it's not so much aiming, it's the... It's just like, you can't really take on a phantom head on if you're low health. Like, they will just blast you with 3
unfortunately,
kinetic
I
blasts.
will say this at least is that you can always just pause the game, which I kind of dislike. I would rather it be a little easier and not be able to pause the game. But you can always just pause the game, eat 15 green teas,
Yeah.
and now you have like 75 extra health. So
Yeah.
there's that.
I have had some health scarcity, though. But again, because I'm playing on hard, so that's
Yeah.
to
The
be
other
expected.
thing that's interesting that I forgot to note is I will say that the armor system is pretty fun. Just I haven't come across the format to just make like better armor, like armor fixes,
Yeah.
but I really do want that, and I know it has to come at some point. I'm hoping,
Yeah, I think I might have suit repair kit fabrication. I don't.
which I feel like me not having right now is ridiculous. But hey,
Um, I'm gonna tentatively list this as a negative, even though I liked that they did it, but it was very annoying. So I've told you that you get the Neuromod fabrication kit thing, whatever plan.
yeah,
Once you use it a certain number of times, it's limited, and then you have to go unlock unlimited. And I don't know if it was coincidental or planned this way, but it happened to me right during a part where I was traveling a good distance. And so it happened, and I was like, well, fuck. This place that I have to go to fix this is back where I started from.
yeah.
And so I turned
Yeah,
around.
I feel like that is one big problem with the game is that a lot of the areas seem, even though they're not necessarily far apart, they're definitely a loading screen away, which
Yeah.
a lot of the times is a negative.
And the worst thing was, like, I was right by a fast travel, but I had no way of knowing that.
Yeah, because you're not to that point yet.
Yeah. And so I was like, fuck. Like, once I went back, got my fucking unlimited, and then went back again, I was like, god damn it. Like, if I'd waited 10 minutes, I would have known.
Yep. Or
But-
just pressed on for like a couple minutes.
Yeah. But again, that's not really a negative. It was unfortunate the way it lined up for me, and I don't know if that's intended or if that's just me crafting too many too early. Which is entirely possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Other than that,
I think that's about it, really.
yeah, I mean, I don't really have a lot of negatives to say. I've really
Again.
enjoyed the game.
For me, as someone who enjoys FPSs, but doesn't necessarily like spooky games, I found the game to be enjoyable, but not like a lovable game. I wouldn't say I loved it.
I wouldn't say I love it either.
It's somewhere between a 7 and 8 for me. It's definitely not quite an 8. It's not bad by any means,
Mm.
but it doesn't it doesn't quite make an 8 for me, and I wouldn't even say it made a 7.5 for me. It's like uh, somewhere in that 7 range, and it's not a bad game by any means. And if you like spookier games and you like slower games, the you know you have the attention span for it, I would totally go for it. But for me, those loading times just kill me.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I kind of don't have anything left to say at this point.
Yeah, I might have to install this game on my SSD to get like a, you know,
A little boost.
yeah, boost probably like 3 or 4 times the speed. But then you think, how big is the game? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't remember how big it was.
Not at all.
I don't know, but if we're good, then thanks for watching.
19 gigabytes. Anyway, yeah, thank you for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and we love you.
Yeah. What he said. Bye.
Enjoy.